Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of 1 Timothy. Today we're going to begin looking at 1 Timothy chapter 5. Now as we begin this chapter, let's just sort of rehearse what we've seen so far in this wonderful little book, in the first 4 chapters. Now remember, Timothy is in charge of the church in Ephesus. Paul had sent Timothy to Ephesus to lead the church there, as it were, to pastor the church. So he's given Timothy advice on how to oversee, how to manage, how to pastor a Christian church. Now we've seen one of the main issues is don't allow false teaching. That's critical. The teaching must be pure doctrine, and you must not allow any teaching in the church that goes against the core of our faith. But it's also talked about qualifications for spiritual leadership, qualifications to be an elder, to be a deacon. He's also talked about how the church should be a place of prayer, a place of worship. All of these things are important. And Timothy is receiving some valuable advice, we as well, about how to oversee the church of Jesus Christ. Now, as he moves into chapter 5, he's going to deal with some practical matters of how church life works. It's almost a chapter on church administration, how to administer the life of a Christian congregation. He's going to talk about how you look upon each other and treat one another in the church. He's also going to spend a lot of time talking about widows, how to care for widows and why that was important in the early church. He's also going to talk about respect due to elders and those who lead. All of these things are just practical matters on how you organize the life of a Christian church. So let's begin looking at chapter 5. Now, the first couple of verses, Paul wants to make it clear to Timothy that everyone in the church, everyone should be treated with respect and dignity and honor. That is just absolutely necessary for the life of a Christian church. Notice what he says in the first couple of verses. Do not rebuke an older man with harshness, but exhort him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers. Treat older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity. Now, Paul is saying to Timothy, listen, as you lead the church, sometimes you're going to have to correct people. Sometimes you're going to have to engage in church discipline. You're always going to be teaching and instructing, but always treat people with gentleness and respect. Remember, we are the family of God. So older men, you remember last chapter, Paul has said, Timothy, I know you're a young man, but take seriously your work. Now, sometimes the people you're dealing with are older men than you are, so treat them as you would your father. You may have to discipline them in the life of the church, but treat them as you would your father, with respect and honor. Now, if it's younger men your own age, or even younger ones, treat them as brothers. You're not lording it over anybody, but treat them as brothers, because in truth you are brothers in Christ. Now, the women in the church, if they're older women, treat them as you would your mother. Show great respect and honor to them. And younger women, treat them as your sisters. In other words, the life of the church ought to be the life of a good, healthy family. Loving each other, caring for one another, treating each other with respect and with dignity and with honor. And he closes it by saying, and all of this in absolute purity. Church life should be a life of absolute purity. So when the church is as it ought to be, it is a family, a good family, a healthy family, a well-functioning family, where everyone loves each other, cares for each other, and treats each other with honor and respect. It's not that there are not sometimes disagreements. Sometimes we disagree in the church. Sometimes we kind of have to fuss with each other a little bit, like all families. But we never quit loving each other, and we never quit treating each other with dignity. You see, the church is not an institution. The church is not an organization. No, it's a family. It's the family of Christ. And so we treat each other as family. So, Timothy, older men treat as you would your father. Women who are older than you treat as you would your mother. Young men, treat them as your brothers. Younger women, treat them as your sisters. Let all things be done properly and with appropriateness, and may purity reign in the life of the church. For the organization of the church must respect a Christ-like atmosphere in all things. So that's how Paul begins teaching Timothy in this chapter 5, on church administration. He says, treat each other as the family of God. Hope you join us next time as we continue looking at chapter 5 in our 5-minute Bible study in the book of 1